Hello and welcome to the FASEB webinar on FASEB's Excellence in Science Award. We are just waiting for a few more minutes to let others join the webinar, so we'll begin in a few minutes. All right, so recognizing that we're a couple minutes after 2 o'clock, thank you for your patience while we waited for everyone to join. Welcome to today's FASEB webinar. Today's topic is FASEB's Excellence in Science Award. I'm Yvette Seeger. I'm the staff liaison for the committee that oversees that award, and I look forward to walking you through today's webinar on our award. So the agenda for today's webinar is to, of course, welcome you, give you a little background on FASEB if you're not familiar with FASEB, provide a little bit of history about the FASEB Excellence in Science Award, also provide details about the prize, walk you through the nomination requirements, how to submit a nomination, the timeline for the award once you've submitted all of your nomination materials, and if I haven't answered all the questions and answers that you have about the award throughout the process of today's webinar, leave some time at the end for questions and answers that you might have within the audience. Speaking of asking a question, if you look at your dashboard for the webinar, there is a place, a little white box where you can type your question, and then if you click the gray send button, that will send your question here, and we will put them in a queue and answer all questions towards the end, or if I see a question come up and I can address it immediately on the slide, I will do that in real time as well. So please do, this webinar is for you to learn more information about the Excellence in Science Award, so please do not hesitate to ask questions. All right, so I will go ahead and get started with the actual substance of the webinar. As I noted at the beginning, today's topic is FASEB's Excellence in Science Award, and my name is Yvette Seeger. I'm the Director of Science Policy here at FASEB, and I also interact with the Excellence in Science Award Committee and help manage it staff-wise. So FASEB. FASEB is a federation of 31 biological and biomedical research societies. We represent over 130,000 individual researchers, and our mission is to advance health and welfare by promoting progress and education in biological and biomedical sciences through service to our member societies and collaborative advocacy. And here are our current FASEB member societies. Hopefully, many of you are familiar with at least one, or if not a couple of these logos. You know, what we're very proud of is that we represent a diverse range of biological sciences. Like many nonprofits, FASEB is governed by a board of directors, and within that board of directors, there are several board-level committees. The Excellence in Science Award is governed by a committee, and you can see the current membership here. The individuals are nominated by their member society to represent them and do their vote on the Excellence in Science Award. This committee members have 3-year terms. And as you can see, we don't have 31 members on this committee. We tend to do a rotation of approximately 1/3 of our societies each year, so that we aren't having a complete turnover of the committee. But these are the individuals who will be making the selection for the 2019 award cycle. So a little bit about the Excellence in Science Award. It was established to recognize outstanding achievement by women in biological sciences, and it was first awarded in 1989. And on this slide, you can see that we have a list of all the previous awardees, and very high-profile names listed here. And if you're interested in looking at additional details or about the awardees and their lectures, when this webinar is archived, you can click on the link. They are all posted on the FASEB website. So what is the prize? The awardee will receive a $10,000 unrestricted research grant. They present a special awardee lecture during the FASEB Member Society meeting of her choice. Because they are presenting a special awardee lecture, they will be reimbursed for their expenses associated with participating in that meeting, and that includes round-trip travel, meeting registration, and up to 2 nights lodging, and a commemorative plaque. And we're very excited with the timing of this webinar. The 2018 awardee, which was selected last year, we are gearing up for that presentation in April during the annual meeting of the American Society for Biochemistry and Molecular Biology, which is part of the experimental biology meeting. Lynn Maquette from the University of Rochester Medical Center will be presenting her award lecture, Nonsense-Mediated mRNA Decay and Human Disease, a Genome Guardian and Executor. That will be presented on April 22nd, 2018. And if you're attending that conference, we strongly encourage you to attend her lecture as well as the other awardee lectures that will be presented at that same time on April 22nd. So nomination requirements for the award. Who is eligible? First and foremost, the nominee must be a woman. The nominee must also be a current member of a FASEB member society, so one of those 31 member societies that we presented at the beginning. The nominee must be nominated by someone who is also a current member of a FASEB member society, but I want to point out the caveat that they do not need to be members of the same FASEB member society, so they just have to be members of a FASEB society. Nominations must be submitted annually using the Excellence in Science Award nomination form. This is a common question. I was nominated last year. Do I have to submit my forms again? Yes. Every year the nomination cycle starts over. So even if you were previously nominated or you nominated someone in the past, you must renominate them and provide the updated documentation for them to be considered in the 2019 award cycle. So we have the criteria, or the eligibility. What are the review criteria? This award recognizes scientific achievements. What does that mean? We're looking for landmark discoveries, high-impact publications, contributions to the field, and scientific leadership. We're also looking at their role in training students and postdoctoral fellows. What are their impacts on careers? And what is their role in teaching and giving lectures both at their university and within the scientific community more broadly? And then their contributions to the broader scientific community. This could include leadership in professional organizations, university service and leadership, and their engagement with public in terms of doing scientific outreach. So those are the eligibility requirements and the criteria that we are reviewing when we look at the nominations. And you're interested in submitting a nomination. How do you go about doing that? So the nomination materials, there are 13 total pieces for a nomination. The first piece is a letter of nomination. The second is the nominee's complete CV. And then 5 reprints representing the nominee's key work, 3 letters of support from the nominee's peers, and 3 letters of recommendations from trainees. And I'll walk you through a little more detail about these nomination materials in the next few slides. So the nomination letter. This is basically the cover letter for the nomination package. So we're looking for a letter that describes in detail the contributions of the nominee to the field that represents the nominee's outstanding achievement in science. Their evidence in leadership, the nominee's evidence of mentorship, evidence of national recognition, naming some of the key honors and awards that the nominee has received, and a synopsis of the selected bibliography. For the nominee's complete curriculum vitae, we're looking for the full CV, all publications, all leadership roles, all mentorship activities, teaching activities, honors and recognition, and grant awards. This is a frequent area that when the review panel meets, you don't want to cheapen the application by doing a shortened CV. This is where we're looking for your complete body of work. So we expect the full CV. And then the next 3 items, 5 nominee reprints. You are limited to only 5 reprints, and these should be the articles that demonstrate the nominee's most significant contributions to a particular field. The 3 letters of support from the nominee's peers should illustrate the nominee's impact on the field. A question that I frequently get asked is, who are the right people for these letters of support? Are they collaborators, or are they broader people, broader investigators within the field, or should it be a mix? And really it depends on the nominee package. But you are looking for those individuals who can describe the nominee's broader contribution to the field. So if that's a combination of collaborators and then other individuals who work within the field who can describe the contributions, that is something for you to make that consideration. But you are looking at the full body of work. The last item is 3 letters of recommendation from trainees, and these should illustrate mentorship and impact on careers. This is another one that gets a lot of questions. Should they be individuals, former trainees who are established in their careers and have more senior positions, or can they be more recent trainees, or should it be a mix? And again, you're looking for those individuals who can write in detail or provide in detail a really good window into the nominee's impact on career development or their mentoring activities. Like a grant application, all of these nomination materials are reviewed very carefully by the review committee. And so they may be familiar with the nominee, and in many cases they are familiar with their work, but they are looking to the information that is provided in the nomination package to get the picture of the nominee and their contributions to their particular field. And then the last bit about the nomination materials, And this is, again, nuts and bolts. You can tell my role with the Excellence in Science Award based on what I'm focusing on. The materials must be submitted using the Excellence in Science web form, and after I go through everything on this slide, we'll click over to that web form just so you can see it. You can't send me an email with all of your attachments. They have to be submitted using the web form. The number of requested materials is exact, so we won't be accepting additional materials. If you really feel that 7 publications represent contribution to the field and you want to submit 7 reprints, I'm sorry, you have to limit that to 5. Materials submitted via email or other modes of document sharing will not be accepted. You have to use the web form. I promise you, it's a pretty straightforward form. I've tested it several times. And most importantly, there is a deadline for this. Materials will not be accepted after the nomination deadline. So you have until end of the day on March 1st, 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to submit your forms. After that, the web form will actually shut down and will no longer accept nominations. I understand that people travel and have other commitments, and that's part of the reason why the award nomination period is open for 2 months. It actually opened on January 2nd. So, you know, we understand that everyone is very busy and we try to give adequate time, but we are not in a position to extend that deadline. So we'll just take a second to click over to the web form just so that you can see it. You'll see some screenshots later in the presentation. And those of you who are familiar with SurveyMonkey and its partner brand Wufu will recognize this as a Wufu form. We have some of you have my contact information, you have the details about the deadline. We'll scroll down, just reminders of some of the things that I've already reviewed about the nomination package. And then you get into the web form. So the date, you know, details about the nominator, details about the nominee. But this is just what the form looks like, and we'll describe the form in a little more detail in future slides. And just a reminder, you've seen the form. All materials must be submitted at the same time. So this isn't something where you can go back and submit part of it and finish it later. When you're ready to submit your nomination, I strongly recommend that even if it's not you filling it in, you know, if you have an assistant helping you fill this out, make sure you have all the information at that one time, because you will have to submit everything at this in one sitting. It will not do partial uploads of documentation. Again, nominations are online submission only, and we looked at the form, so we'll move on. And we already went through a little bit when we scrolled through the form, but just to reiterate some of the information that you'll need for the nominator, you'll need the full name, title, institution, business address, business email, business phone number, and most importantly, the FASEB society of which he or she is a member. Yeah, and it's fine if you submit acronyms. If you're a member of multiple FASEB societies, awesome. You can list all of your member societies, but we do need to have that society affiliation. For the nominee, we will need her name, title, institution, business address, business email, business phone number, and the FASEB society of which she is a member. In terms of your documentation, all files must be submitted in a PDF format. This is for multiple reasons. It will not gum up the Wufu form when you go to submit it. So please make sure all of your files are in a PDF format. And new this year, if you've submitted in prior years, in terms of making it easier to track documentation on our side and making it a lot easier to get documents to the committee for review, we're requesting that you use a standard format for naming your documents. This should make it easier for you as well as you're preparing the documents. We ask that you do the nominee's surname. So I used myself as an example. So for the nomination letter, it would be Seeger nomination, and it's a PDF, Seeger CV PDF. If you can name all your files in this way, as opposed to Seeger et al., Nature paper 2017, March, you can see right away it makes it a lot easier to track documents for you nominating someone, but also on our end, when we receive the documents, we know exactly what the document is. So please use that file naming format. In terms of uploading files, we have a screenshot of the Wufu Forum. So after you fill in all the information in the open field boxes, the 13 pieces of information that you need to provide, you see it's just you choose a file and you'll upload it. You'll go through and you'll choose all the files and you'll click submit. There's always that panic when you do anything that involves a web form. I think we've all experienced that. But don't worry, if a problem arises, you'll know. So the way you'll know that something's gone wrong with your upload is that the form will show you there are lots of things that have asterisks that mean that they're mandatory information. And you'll also see that it'll tell you if it had difficulty uploading your documents. I will tell you, having played with the form quite a bit to try and break it, if you don't fill out any of the information in the open text box form at the top, it will automatically not upload your documents. So everything will show up red. But if everything is okay, you will see a confirmation. And here's an example of that of a successful upload and submission where here you have the confirmation screen. It says your nomination for the FASEB 2019 Excellence in Science Award has been successfully submitted. Gives you a little bit about the timeline. And then in the lower right corner, I timed this perfectly when I took the screenshot because the email came through that, oh yes, you'll receive an email confirmation that says your nomination has been received. Do not anticipate any other communication in the process regarding whether or not your nomination was received. If you see this confirmation screen and receive a confirmation email, know that we have your materials. So in terms of the timeline for the award, so March 1 is the deadline for submissions. As I stated previously, that this is a hard deadline. That is because in early March, the nominations will be sent to the Excellence in Science committee members for their initial review. The committee members will be divided into groups, with each member reviewing approximately 10 to 12 applications. It depends on how many applications we receive, and they do initial triage. In early April, they have the preliminary review discussions, just to verify that everyone in each group is in agreement about which applications will move on for additional review and which ones will be passed for this cycle. And then in mid-April, the finalists, we anticipate reviewing about 10 to 12 finalists, and there's a teleconference to discuss those finalists and make the final recommendation on behalf of the committee regarding the awardee. In early May, once the finalist or the awardee has been determined, the committee chair will develop a recommendation that goes to the FASEB Board of Directors as part of its June meeting. And like anything with FASEB, it can be a policy statement or the Excellence in Science Award. The committee makes a recommendation, and then the board finalizes that recommendation. And then in late June, that is when we begin announcing the awardee. So, and in terms of the actual conferral of the award, the reason why we're a year ahead of cycle is because we want to make sure the award is conferred in the same year that the annual meeting at which the awardee will be presenting. So, depending on which meeting the awardee selects, the date of the actual award lecture and presentation varies. So that is all I have in terms of talking about the award and our process. I wanted to leave some time for Q&A. I did see one pop up while I was talking about the nomination process, but just to reiterate, if you have a question, there is a question box on the right-hand panel of your viewfinder. So can nominators get some feedback about previous nominees who did not get the award so that we know whether it is worthwhile to resubmit a nomination? That's a great question. Typically, we have not provided feedback on the nominees. In terms of if information is incomplete, I, as a staff member, will let them know that there was a disqualification because of those materials. But those discussions amongst the Excellence in Science Committee are typically considered to be confidential. But that's a great feedback for me to take back to the committee for future consideration. But at this time, we do not provide feedback. Other questions that I frequently get asked is in terms of the membership. So I talked about the nominator and the nominee needing to be current members of a FASEB society. But then if you look at the materials that are required, there are also those letters of support from your peers and also your mentees. And so a question I've been asked is if they also need to be members of FASEB societies. And the answer is no, they do not. It's only the nominator and the nominee that need to be current members of the FASEB societies. If they are members of FASEB society, that's great, but it's not a requirement for this award. And I addressed some of the other questions that have come through, and I'll just reiterate them. Recommendations from trainees. What types of individuals would be best suited for writing those letters? Again, it varies. And thinking about those of you who do admissions committees, think about the letters that provide you the best window into an applicant. It's the same idea here with the Excellence in Science awardee. You're looking for those individuals who can provide the most information regarding the nominee's contribution as a mentor, provide examples. You want a meaningful letter that really describes what they did and that nominee's impact on a mentee's career. Some of the letters that we've seen have discussed not only the one-on-one interactions with the nominee and the trainee, but have also discussed what the nominee has done within, say, a professional society or going to different universities in terms of giving lectures and talking about career development. So really, again, looking for that mix to paint a picture of all the contributions the nominee has made in terms of mentorship and training and education. All right. I think we have emptied. Oh, we have another. Oh, yes. Oh, my favorite question. Can we get a PDF of this presentation to remind us of the detail for the nomination procedure? Or are all these details on the application page? Thank you for that question. That's a good reminder. So this webinar is being recorded, and the recording will be available in a couple of days. And so you can access the slides, you can listen to it again, and certainly the slides will be available for download. And also, I am reiterating a lot of the information that's on the nomination form. But if you have any additional questions, of course, my contact information, preferably by email, is also available should you have last-minute questions. As I was telling my colleague before we started the webinar, the one thing I have noticed in my time leading the implementation of this award is that my work phone tends to be very active on March 1st between 9 p.m. and 11 p.m., which is when we're nearing the deadline. Do know that is I'm aware that I should be monitoring my email at that time, but it's best if you kind of look at the form and get your questions a little bit earlier than right up on the deadline, because you are reaching a real person. But I do my best to answer questions quickly, and I've already answered quite a few questions that have been emailed to me since the nomination process has been open. But I do try to respond to them quickly, and we appreciate you nominating people. We have another question, and this is another. You guys are asking great questions and reminding me of some of the questions that have come through. Emeritus scientist. So I've had the emeritus question come up from two angles. Can an emeritus professor nominate someone? And that is very much yes. And I've also had a question from a group that was interested in nominating an emeritus researcher. And there are no boundaries to their current status. I just want to remind everyone that the key part of the prize is a $10,000 research grant. So if there are, as you're nominating someone, think about their ability to use those funds. In my time managing the award, we typically pay the money to the research institution like a grant. So it's not an individual check, but in terms of if you think you have a very qualified individual that you would like to nominate, and they've made incredible contributions to the field and are worthy of this honor, by all means, nominate them. All right. Well, again, I think, and every time I say that we've cleared the question box, that's when another question comes through. But I really want to thank you for your time today, and hopefully this was a helpful webinar. I know that we request a lot of information for the Excellence in Science Award, but we also, we feel that shows how strongly we feel about this award, both in terms of recognizing the contributions of women scientists, but also recognizing the high quality science. And again, if you go back to the previous awardees, me as a fairly recent PhD graduate, I look at it as a who's who, and I'm very proud to be involved with this award. And we are so excited by the quality of nominations we receive each year. So we're looking forward to a really great 2019 awards cycle. With that, we will conclude the webinar, and we look forward to any other questions via email, and encourage any colleagues to check out this webinar if they were unable to attend. Thank you very much.